Welcome to the Corner House Collective Podcast, Episode 1, sponsored by Corner House Recording, Danny Hardaker Video. So today's guests are Steve Manthorp from Adept and Cultural Institute. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm fine, thanks, Mouse. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You've been enjoying the lockdown?
I've been very creative, actually. I've been cooking. I've been restored a painting. I've done a wood carving for the first time in, I don't know, decade. So yeah, having a great time.
Brilliant. I got into baking and Arduinos. So,
You're so
there you go.
Class, Mouse. Is it sourdough? Have you got a sourdough culture on the
I tried to do that and I killed it. It was called Barry and it is now dead. So I've just got rid of that.
Quite right, too.
And the other guest today is Michael Day. How are you doing, Michael?
Hey up. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good.
How are you?
Joining us from Vienna, but originally hailing from Bradford.
That's right. Born and bred.
That's it. As you can see, Michael's in a traditional Viennese apartment with no soft furnishings, so it has a nice echo.
And the bottom half of Lederhosen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Out of the way. So this is the first episode of the Corner House Collective podcast. The idea is it's going to be representing music, culture and arts in Bradford, Keighley and beyond. It's one of those things that at the minute we don't know quite what it's going to be, but we're just going to make it go along. And it's always fun. We've got a real good load of guests lined up over the next coming weeks. I guess today, we don't want to, it's really hard to talk about anything else, isn't it? But the way that Corona-19's hit the arts and maybe individually as creatives, how it's affected us, and also as institutions and venues, how they've been affected. You were saying, Steve, that you've managed to use the time creatively. Michael, would you say that you're also managing to use the time creatively?
It's gone through waves, I guess. I think there's days where I wake up and feel super motivated to use the time, and I'm like, I know that I've been longing for this kind of space for a really long time, when I've been busy and that. But then other days where it's just, for me, very, very difficult to feel an urge. And I'm normally needing my day to be kind of chopped up to know I've kind of got X amount of time to do this. But when you literally have so all to do from dawn till dusk, it's a bit hard, I find, to push yourself to do something new. I've been trying a few things. I'm just trying to be to improve things that I know I'm not good at. Like my piano playing, I've been trying to learn a Beethoven piano sonata for most of the last couple of weeks. And stuff like you say, doing more cooking, just health, self-improvement kind of things that I just don't have the time for usually, so.
Yeah,
but writing-wise, it's been hard.
I've found actually that despite the fact that you've got what seems like an infinite amount of time, you still have to be really organised with it. And I kind of have nailed down less art stuff, I guess, but more tasks that I need to do. I've managed to find a space to actually order them in a way that is actually getting them done, rather than A, procrastinating, or B, just sticking them on the back burner, which is
you've got
good.
Young family too, which I think is a whole different thing. I've been living alone for a decade, and so my time is entirely my own, whereas you've got a lot to do.
That's true. And me and my wife have been we're doing pretty well in terms of splitting, because she's working from home as well, splitting the time between family and work. Noise cancelling headphones, they're good. The other day I sat down and I had 2 or 3 hours of really good productive work time, and when I left my wife and children, they were kind of happy and laughing, and then when I came down, it was chaos had happened and there was stuff everywhere and kids crying, but I think it's interesting that it has kind of changed a bit the way that we work that way. And I think in terms of the institutions as well, obviously I run a music venue that's been closed. We closed that pretty much at the start of March. And it's obviously completely devastating to not be able to open. Now, there has been some financial help. And I think the exchange is agile enough that we will hopefully get through the other side. But do you guys have any? I know that Steve, you work at Leeds University. How have they handled the kind of shutdown? Was it quite planned, or was it sudden? Or
Yeah, it was and had to be. You know, you've got research projects there which can't be left untended. Various kind of ongoing processes, but they just locked the building down by degrees, and they'll be doing the inverse in due course. Anyone who can work from home is working from home, so I am. I don't need to be on campus, and we probably won't be going back till September. What we have been doing in the Cultural Institute is supporting individuals and organisations who've applied to the Arts Council's Emergency Relief Fund.
yeah,
And we've supported, I think it's 16 applicants, and so far everyone who we were able to work with has been funded. So that's
brilliant.
Yeah. They were very agile. They really got their fingers out, and you know, there are people getting money more or less immediately. I know that there are some who didn't, but yeah, so far it's been 100% hit.
So you've got quite a lot of experience of applying for funding and finding grants to do art and cultural projects. Is there anything that you could go over on kind of common mistakes that people make? Or
Yeah, sure. It's been interesting actually with this set of applications, because we've seen enough to be able to kind of get the themes of what people are planning on doing with the money, and as you say, B, you know, the mistakes they made in making applications. I used to be an Arts Council officer, and I always say, for Christ's sake, make it easy on the person who's assessing. You know, the easier it is for them to tick the boxes, the more likely you are to get the money. The big mistake people have been making is not enough detail, not putting down the financial detail, not saying exactly what they're going to be doing with the money. And the middle question of the very simple 3 questions the Arts Council asked was kind of about demonstrating that you're an important part of a part of the cultural infrastructure. So you have to demonstrate that Arts Council funded organisations have used your work or commissioned you or supported you, and so on. It's not difficult, but you know, I think when you're in the panic of having lost all your income, sometimes you're just like, you know, dashing a form off as quick as you can.
it was quite tight deadlines for the crisis fund, wasn't it? They did move fast with it, to be fair. But
They did move fast, but I think a 3rd deadline wouldn't have been a bad thing.
Yeah. So Michael, you obviously you're over in Vienna now. We've got the Arts Council in England that support things. How does Vienna support arts and culture, and what are the differences that you found from the UK?
I've not really had to experience anything quite so dramatic in the UK before. From what I remember, it was quite difficult to get hold of money in the UK. In Vienna, it's very, very bureaucratic over here, sadly. Everything that they do just requires form after form after form. You fill in this one, and then you need to do another one, or again after to connect the dots and everything like this. And so, I mean, from my own personal situation I'm a self-employed artist, musician over here, that there was a few different organizations. There's like our Royalty Society, our equivalent of PRS for music. And they were the quickest and the most effective so far from me in doling out cash for people who were a member of the society, basically. And the government themselves, they had their own kind of crisis emergency fund for businesses across the whole spectrum. But in terms of self-employment, there were so many boundaries financially that you had to fit under. So to be honest, I just wasn't earning enough money to get hold of money in the first phase, which I understand is probably based upon how much tax you've been contributing and social security and this kind of thing. So the first phase, I got nothing. And then just recently, I got hold of a little bit of cash from their second phase, where they've started to include people who are on a lower income bracket, as they should. But it's been interesting, the dialogue that's been going around. We actually just had our culture secretary resign yesterday from harsh criticism about the way they've handled the arts and culture, that it feels very much like they kind of put the industries into a bit of a hierarchy from the get-go, really, where obviously essential services had to be pushed and maintained, but arts seemed to come last, as per usual. I guess because they don't necessarily consider it to be as big a contributor to the economy.
Yeah, I think another side of it as well is it's really changed the way that we view different industries and different like people with jobs. Like just before it happened, I remember I was talking to Alina, who's won, about dustbin men, and I was saying these guys do a really important job, and like we were watching them collect and they were waving at us and stuff, and you know they're frontline workers now. You kind of advertising executive, nobody really's noticed that they're not able to do their job properly, and that's fine, really, isn't it? And you know, like, and then kind of the other side of it is, well, we need arts and culture to help us with our identity, and that goes away. Like, I mean, obviously, my experience is live music. As soon as that's kind of like gone away from all the bands that I know and I've talked to and everything, they're trying to find ways of carrying on doing what they're doing because it's who they are, it's their identity. So, you know, it's been a real interesting insight into how different industries, how they're seen as important, I would say.
Am I working again, by the way?
You are, yes.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. And I think that not only within our leaders and governments, but I think among ordinary people, like my partner encountered a troll, a middle-aged troll on the internet the other day who was commenting on a post from somebody who was saying that they're in that position where they've just started to be a self-employed artist and that their business isn't earning enough money yet and they're ineligible for any help. And the troll was basically just saying, yeah, well, if you were worth any money, you wouldn't have this kind of problem, basically. And I think he was just trying to aggravate her, but that attitude of you can put the worth of something being purely financial is a very damaging thing, especially in a time like this when I think people really need art and really need music, and for culture like that to come back to free us from what's been probably very, very monotonous and quite depressing couple of months, really. So I think, yeah, the financial versus holistic, I guess, side of art and music is a very interesting topic that doesn't get the kind of debate, really, that it needs, maybe.
It's paradoxical, isn't it? Because exactly as you say, Michael, at the moment, culture has never been more important. You know, whether it's simply the films and, you know, box sets that people are chugging, the music that they're playing, whatever. But cultural practitioners are taking an absolute pounding.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, that's not something new. It is always the first to be hit. It's the first to be hit in schools, music and art. That's the first thing to be cut. And like, even though there's been studies to show that teaching a child a musical instrument helps with English, maths, or your STEM things, you know, and yet it's still not kind of seen as important and by a lot of people. And it's frustrating, I guess, isn't it? But maybe we will come out the other side of that and people will see that there is an importance there that they didn't see before. Or, you know, it's like a big shake-up of everything, isn't it? That's what I find the most strange thing. It's been kind of mentally and physically, it's like etch-a-sketching the entire world. And then we can almost, to a point, redraw things from a new perspective. So it should be interesting. All right, I'm going to move on now to, I want to talk about the Bradford's bid for the City of Culture. So it was something that I was kind of like starting to take an interest in, I guess, before the Corona-19 we all went into lockdown. And so much so that I've not thought about it for so long that I've forgotten what year it is.
2025.
Steve, thank you. Right, so I wanted to move on to Bradford's bid for the City of Culture 2025, which has kind of been out off my radar, to be honest, since all this has happened. I was taking like a quite large interest in it before. But obviously, Steve, have you been keeping track of how they've adapted to how they're going to shape their bid given the current climate situation?
I mean, obviously they're having to rethink. I think the stars are quite well aligned for Bradford to win it. It's, you know, there's a lot going on in Bradford. Bradford's won the Creative People and Places, which is, it's known as the LEAP in in Bradford, which is the Arts Council initiative to kind of develop interest in the arts, both as audiences and as creators. So, yeah, I think everyone's having to rethink. Like the early LEAP projects are having to be changed to kind of online or just postponed. Same, I think, with 2025, that they're just at the moment looking at what they can do in current circumstances. But, you know, obviously anything live demands audiences, so you've got tremendous problems.
It's always, it seems like such a long time away, but you know, I know that it's not really about the date, but about the build up to it and the advantages that can bring to Bradford and to like the local communities there.
Completely.
And that's sorry, go
on. I mean, it made a huge difference to Hull, I think, not just in terms of confidence, but in terms of a lot more money was put towards culture in Hull. A lot of places were developed. The theatre had a complete refit. The art gallery had a complete refit. Some of the performing venues got a lot of money. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think one of there's quite a lot of challenges with it generally, but one of the things that I thought about having a venue in Keighley is that people from Keighley have always got a disconnect with Bradford. So it being called Bradford City of Culture, it's hard to get the general population on board for it in Keighley. I mean, I know that they always frame things as Bradford and district, but it's going to be a challenge. I think that's going to be a challenge for the organisers to kind of feel like the general people of Keighley are involved.
Yeah, I agree. Again, going back to the LEAP, the Creative People and Places project, they are putting a lot of money into Keighley, recognising that Keighley is very much kind of underrepresented in cultural advantage and so on. In terms of the 2025, there's a huge vested interest in really embracing Keighley, and that is the Brontes and Bronte parsonage. You know, that's one of the kind of big cultural wins for Keighley. So it's very much in their interest to make sure that Keighley feels part of the bid and is part of the bid.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's something that my personal focus of attention will shift back onto now that things seem to be running in whatever way they're running, and we can see what we can do with it. But I think from talking to people involved, they do feel like the stars are aligned for it and that it is the right time. And obviously we've tried before and not had it, and that is quite a big knockback to get, I imagine. But that quite a lot's changed since then. What do you think has changed since the last bid compared to where we're going towards in 2025?
I think there's a lot more interest in culture. I think there are a lot more small cultural organisations. I mean, the issue with Bradford as a district has always been that it's got one or two huge cultural organisations, lots of very small kind of SME activity, you know, small venues, individual performance, and not a lot in the middle. And that's one of the things that I think has been recognised by CPP. They have an interest in kind of growing cultural organisations, making them more sustainable, making them able to cope with larger audiences and so on. So there's that. Also, I think there used to be a kind of something of a disconnect between the culture and the council. There had been historically a big fallout over festivals, which had kind of left cultural organisations and individuals alienated from the council. I think a lot of that's kind of passed under the bridge now. There's a younger generation very happy to work with the local authority in a very positive way. We've got places like Impressions, we've got places like the National Museum of National Science and Media Museum. There's a lot of exciting stuff. I mean, I was very much part of the first bid. I was the artistic director. I wept when we didn't get it.
Oh.
I was so mortified. But the only downside is that if you think about capital and city of culture in England, you've got Hull at one end of the M62 and Liverpool at the other end of the M62, one being capital of culture, the other being city of culture. So that is possibly a negative. But I think our offer is very strong, and the director, Richard Shaw, very dynamic, really believes in Bradford. It's our time.
Yes. Yeah. It's exciting. And like I say, it's exciting about the possibilities of the build-up to it. And I think that we're going to see quite a big shift in the next 5 years of culture and arts and music as well, with the Odeon on the horizon to be opening soon, and that's going to be like that's absolutely stunning building. Judging from the pictures of the unveiling of going back to the original fixtures and fittings, and just the size of it, because there's not really a venue of that size in Bradford that's going to do what it's going to do. So it's exciting to see.
It is exciting
Right,
times.
we're going to pull in our first extra guest, which if Danny wants to drop Mr. Drury in the chat, see if we can get it to work. So we're going to try different ideas in the podcast of what we can do. And the first slot we want to have a regular slot of is an spoken word. So we'll see if there he is. Hi Sam, how are you?
Hello, how are you doing? I'm very well, thank you.
Good. And how have you been finding the lockdown? Have you been finding ways to be creative, or have you just been on Netflix?
Yeah, well, I started out being very optimistic about what I could do with the house, with all my free time. So me and Emma started scraping off over 100 years worth of wallpaper off our staircase. And then that got boring, so then we just kind of went to the Netflix after that.
So you've gone with rustic, half-strip wallpaper?
Yeah, that's what it's like at the moment. I keep it, but she wants a banana leaf wallpaper or something like that. I don't know.
So Sam, you're going to do some spoken word for us. How long have you been writing poetry?
I've been writing poetry and lyrics for, I don't know. I mean, since I was probably about 9 or 10, or like give or take. I mean, it's quite funny because recently I actually found some of my old notepads with some like poems and short stories, and it's kind of nice, but almost kind of embarrassing because you look at it and go, oh, wow, I'm not much better. but no. So I mean, and then like I kind of got serious with it when I started playing in bands as well, and so that kind of took my writing to another level as well as music. And I don't know, in the last like year or so, I kind of like hammered down on the poetry rather than writing lyrics. I kind of went off and kind of went a bit more wordy with it. So I kind of stuck to the poetry.
A bit more of a standalone thing, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't really. I imagine you can't put music to some of the stuff just because of the amount of words and the structure. But I'm liking it at the moment. It's that again with the lockdown. I've been very surprised how much stuff I'm actually coming out with. But I mean, with what's going on, there's a lot of inspiration. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, we'll listen to your spoken word piece then.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. This one is called Tomorrow Day. Observation obscured by piercing rays of jagged light. The midnight teeth shift, so I guess the flag is to fly at half-mast tonight. Is it all truly over once the overwhelming screaming ceases? The moon is overlooking the weak spray of shadows, struggling to glisten and struggling to listen to any advice given. We've been sleepless for days now, yet we still dance. Collectively our heads vibrate to the sound of new hope. There will always be fresh mornings to come. Fresh and awake, however, never underestimate the potency of rich paranoia. To travel a new sea and not to be judged. To take a stroll alongside my local reservoir and not see the abattoir that's right beside the forgotten church. It kills the mood more than you could ever know. I just want everything to be pure and easy. I'm a fragile piece of never before been used properly, and I will grow attached to these chains. But as we know, things change. I could have a different attitude towards my outlook and optimism tomorrow day. And that's it.
I'm going to give you a round of applause. Thank you, Sam.
No worries.
So you stay on. We're not going to kick you out, but we hope to have different spoken word guests of like various different kinds of different backgrounds of people over the next few weeks. So yeah, it should be an interesting section, I think, definitely. But thank you.
Thanks for having me. No worries.
Sponsor for this episode of Corner House Collective podcast is Corner House Recording Studio. So Corner House Recording Studio is based in the Corner House building. It's run by Kurt. Kurt built it literally with his own hands, about 18 months ago now. It's such a pro setup. It's nice to have a studio that's built specifically for being a studio. He's got an amazing array of gear that you can use and microphones, and he's really good. Kurt's really good at either getting people's ideas how they want them, if you've got quite set ideas of how you want your recording to sound, or if you've got a bit more like of an underdeveloped idea that you want help with producing, then Kurt's really good at that as well. So it's worth checking out his website, which is cornerhouserecordingstudio.com. And hopefully, I mean, can we have a look at a list of the gear if you're in the links there? I can't remember just where it is, it's somewhere. And gear list. So on the right there, gear list. There we go. So he's got a number of different guitar amplifiers in there that make up such a large wall. I understand it's called Tonehenge. And lots of different outboard gear that makes it. And some of the recordings that are coming out of there, well, all of them are sounding really good. I was so impressed with how quickly it took him to tune the room, so to speak. And it was literally put a set of curtains up, and then you can get such a like clear sound. But to doing different things as well. I'm doing like kind of folk. We've heard really excellent folk recordings coming out of there, to like really kind of heavy doom metal and like everything in between. So check it out, cornerhouserecordingstudio.com. It's a really good local studio in Keighley. We thank them for sponsoring Corner House Collective podcast. I want to go on to a bit about how artists are putting themselves out there during the lockdown, I guess. And one specific thing that I've been looking at is the live streamed events. So it was kind of about a week after the lockdown began, everyone started talking about how I want to be able to jam with my band over the internet, and it's just not possible. Like, as far as I know, because of the speed of light, it's not possible to play at the same time as somebody else away, which is kind of a bit depressing, really. But there have been people that have come around different ways of doing it. Obviously, it's like multi-tracking, basically. One of the good gigs I saw was by False Advertising, and they basically did a full set. They've done a few different ones, I think, now. They did the Isolation gig, which I think we'll try and show a clip of, but it's in the rundown. I don't know. Let's try this, Danny. Can you play this link? And we'll see. It might sound rubbish on our recordings on our streaming here, but it'll make its way to the recording. So let's see if we can watch a little bit of this. Danny, you'll need to click on that. Danny's our video guy. Let's see if this works. False Advertising, I played the Exchange a few times. A really nice guy. I think they've got a real original sound as well. And
great band.
Seem to have taken one of the first bands to take on the mantle of actually doing something, like during the lockdown. But can we play that, Danny? You have to share your screen and unmute yourself. We might edit it in there. We'll edit it in later. It's fine. And then some of the other ones that we saw was Post Malone. I came on to you, Sam, linking to that, because basically Post Malone, the guy with the tattoos on his face.
Yeah.
I don't really know much about him. He does rubbish hip hop, doesn't he?
He's actually very good. I quite like his stuff.
Oh well, there you go. But his Nirvana set was awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was a live performance. They were all in the same house. It looked like they were social distancing. It looked the part, and I think there was a quote from Dave Grohl who was basically saying, "People are messaging me saying, 'Have you seen this Post Malone thing?' And I'm busy writing because I'm probably with music at the minute, so I'm just writing stuff." And then eventually I listened to it. I was like, "Oh, that is actually good. Fair enough." Are there any other ways that anybody's seen kind of artists, changing, using different ways of either live streaming or putting themselves out there in a way that works within a lockdown. Have you, Michael or Steve, have you seen anything that's worth of note?
One thing that I saw, which I thought was lovely, was it's an initiative by visual artists, painters and draftspeople, called Portraits for Heroes, where they're doing portraits of essential workers and sending them to them just as a thank you.
Right. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's a really nice idea, so that people who are in those really tough jobs have got something, interesting that they can a portrait of them that they can frame up and put on the wall to remember this time.
It's been interesting to see, like, my street, basically because all the kids are at home, the pavement on my street has become just a free range chalkboard for anybody. So you can walk down the street and there's hopscotch and there's games to play. There's a guy down who's obviously got a bit of an artistic flair about him, and he does a different drawing on his chalkboard and leaves it outside his house every time, which is amazing. I mean, there's no particular reason that shouldn't have happened before, but it just seems that everybody got together and did it. It was cool. What about you, Michael? Anything in Vienna that you think, that wouldn't have happened if we weren't all locked down?
Live streaming wise, I mean, the most ambitious thing I've been a part of anyway was a 24-hour live stream that my friend Sam put together, where basically he was the kind of host for it, and he would drop people in for interviews, performances, segments like that. And it was just it was a really massive number of guests, and it ran completely smoothly and seamlessly. It was great. And for him, he was awake and being part of it the whole time, which is crazy. And we raised like 1,600, no, I think about 2,000 euros for Doctors Without Borders. So that was really nice. It felt like a really good, because one of the things I love most about gigs and music and that is the feeling of cooperation between the venue and the bar, especially a place like the Exchange, which I really miss, by the way, a lot. Just a feeling that, as soon as doors open, everybody's kind of in it with one another. So when you do a live stream on your own in your bedroom, it's all right, but it's a bit lonely, to be honest with you. And so
what's
it was
that
lovely.
phrase we talked about making a bit of a tagline for the Exchange once, which was if we like the same music, we're all friends still. I've messed that up. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'll remember that later. It'll come to me.
Was that thing for what we're going to do behind the bar?
Yeah, what was it now?
I remember. I can't remember.
When you take your mind off something for so long, unfortunately, because the Exchange can't really do anything, it has kind of been on the back burner for me, for a while, and then your mind has to come back to things, doesn't it? Okay, what should we...
One of the interesting things I've been looking at with televised stuff is those programmes which needed an audience before, comedy, music. One of my secret vices is pro wrestling. And how they're adapting to not having audiences, and how different it makes the things, the performances.
That was something about that Nirvana Post Malone set. They all had full stacks up and were obviously playing really loud. And he was giving it, and he was fully kind of putting himself out there. But at the end of the song, it finished and there was no crowd noise.
Yeah.
So ghostly and weird.
It's eerie, I think.
To not have that kind of, back and forth between an audience and a performer.
It's adrenaline as well. You kind of feed off it, regardless of what you're in, like you said, music, sports, arts, or anything. If you without an audience, it's almost kind of twice as hard to give, and to not have that kind of bounce off you to give some more next time. It's a weird dynamic that we're in.
Yeah, and it's a challenge that I think I don't know how. If venues reopen and they have to socially distance, it's it kind of goes against rock and roll, doesn't it? Yeah. 2 meters apart, you can't have a mosh pit, can you?
Yeah. You're certainly not going to be diving off the stage anyway, are you?
No, probably
Well, I
not.
read somewhere there's no more moshing to be had anymore. I think once it's all back to normal.
Okay, I think what we should do is we should do the quiz first, and then we should end on Mickey Day. I think that's a good way of doing it. So do you want Ben? Can we get Mr. Ben Baker in the meeting? He will come along shortly. Sorry, I know I completely switched that around to the way we're going to said we'd do it, but that's just the way I seem to be rolling today. Is he alive? Have we caught him unawares? Sorry, I should have given more warning. See if we can get him in. He may have gone for a cup of tea or something. I know he's on his way. Ben's, I'll just talk about him before he comes in. Ben's done various quizzes at the Exchange and at various places, and I know that he's switched on to doing online quizzes, which, hey, there he is. Hello, Ben.
What, me?
Yes,
Hi.
you.
Sorry, you just caught me drinking out of a rather large cup.
So you've been hosting quizzes online?
On the World Wide Web, that's what we're calling it these days, I believe.
Is that something you ever did before?
Online quizzing?
Yeah.
No, not really. I tried a quiz podcast a few years ago, and it just didn't quite work because you need the interaction, you need to hear people, you need to have that kind of you just need a bit of interaction, really. And I did do a section which kind of worked in it, called ludicrously niche mastermind, where I asked people for their mastermind questions of stuff that they would never get to do on actual mastermind. So one person did Transformers the movie, but only up to Optimus Prime dying, which is about 18 minutes into the film. Spoilers, sorry, for a 1986 film.
I used to have that on VHS.
No, this has been a new thing. And, it attracts some people, not others. Some people are weirded out by the video aspect of it, which I don't blame them. I'm looking literally at anyone else on this rather than myself. So if it seems like I'm not looking at camera, it's not you guys, it's me.
No, that's good. So we're going to figure out how to do the quiz in this podcast. Like, we might have some kind of more listener participation in the future in the live streaming. So we're not live streaming this one, but for now, you've got your quiz. I
have got some questions. I wasn't sure how many people are going to be on the stream. It's lovely to see everybody, especially you. Now you've left. Is this where we all talk badly about him? You don't need a pen. In fact, well, being at how many players, so everyone's playing. All right, I tell you what, get a pen and a paper or something to write on. Why not? Now he's decided it's all gone madness. It's just one of them crazy situations, when you've been in your house for 2 bleeding months.
Just have no pen. Wikipedia open on my phone.
It could be a chalkboard, as I say every week. It could be a chalkboard. It could be a blackboard. I don't see colour. It could be your own blood and a wall. I don't mind, as long as it's something basic, to make a note on. But I didn't know how many. I thought it was just going to be you, Michael. So it's lovely to see everybody else. Has Sam done his poem?
He has. Sorry, you didn't get to see it.
I
look forward to seeing it back. all right.
It was right good.
Yeah, it's good. I'm assuming we're not swearing on this.
Well, I don't know. I've not really.
I was going to ask him what rhymes with swallocks, but I'll just leave it.
Trollocs.
Poet. You see? Natural poet. And a natural ginger.
Absolutely. No fake hair here, pal.
No.
Come on then, quiz.
I've touched it myself. Right, I've got 5 questions to begin with that are also tangentially themed to Keighley and music, which I figured was quite suitable for this here podcast. So, which US pop icon, Susan Seeker, and rotten actress told Jonathan Ross on his chat show in 2003 her favourite beer was Timothy Taylor's Landlord, boosting sales heavily? So you write that down. I'll give you 3. I'll say 1, 2, 3. Then you hold it up. Or leave the room. That also works.
I'm going to say it out loud. I have no pen, so I'm mentally...
All right, well, after 3, you can say it out loud. But we'll wait for the host to come back.
Do you have to hold it up if you don't have a clue?
Just guess, Mickey.
Just
all right.
US pop icon
US pop
who acts and once sought Susan. That might be a bit more obscure. I appreciate it for the youth. Do you want to take a picture of that backdrop though? When Michael can't be there, you could just use that and say.
He's just
Still, how about that local sports team? You like my subtle way I've plugged some of my books behind me?
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
You need to work on your angles.
You need to work on that, Paul. I mean, sorry, forget it's a visual thing. So after 3, I want your answers. 1, 2, 3.
Madonna.
It was Madonna.
Yeah.
Well done.
No way.
It was Madonna, yeah. She loves a bit of landlord.
Yep.
You know, which landlord do you think she'd go for if the pubs were open?
Which Keighley landlord?
Yeah. From the Knife and Riot Shield. That's our new pub, I think. Number 12. When housed in the Vic, R.I.P., gone too soon, for the Keighley Crawl in 2009, which Welsh rappers said it was kind of like the room you'd commit a murder in, then after spending several years in prison, end up living in when you got released. We were right at home. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
GLC.
Just say it out loud, it's fine.
Goldie looking chain.
It was Goldie looking chain.
Yeah.
Yes, put up by the by the previous owner of the extent, I believe.
I think Welsh rap group was probably.
All right, I'm sure there are Welsh
clue.
rap groups watching now, going, "Well, I'm not watching anymore."
Could have been us. Could have played Keighley.
That could have played Keighley. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Question 3. Ocean Colour Scenes live, one for the Road LP of 2014 must be the only record in existence to have a track recorded in which Keighley non-traditionally musical location.
Huh.
I wish I had a pen.
So it's not like the Exchange or anything like that. They recorded it in an unusual place. In 2014, Ocean Colour Scene came to Keighley, and we all remember there was all them roses in the street, and we all bowed and said, "Thank you for coming, Ocean Colour Scene." Just 13/15 years after you had any commercial worth.
I don't know that.
It's a tricky one.
I'm gonna make a.
After 3, does anyone know it? 1,
Yep.
2, 3.
Bolt makers.
Library.
No, it wasn't the Bolt
Chip
Makers.
shop.
Some of them played the Bolt Makers. They actually played Keighley Leisure Centre.
Oh.
They played the Leisure Centre. Yeah.
What, Vic,
Yeah, it's weird, that
Vic
one.
Hall? The hall next to the leisure centre?
Well, it
Just on the
only
inflatable.
says on the album Keighley Leisure Centre, and as I wasn't there, because I hate Ocean Colour Scene, I assume it meant Vic Hall. But that's what they've classed it as on the album, which is...
Just them in the Speedos and the deep end playing.
I mean, that should have been the cover of the album. Might have sold a few more. But yeah, some of them did play the Bolt Makers.
That's what I got confused at, yeah.
Number 4. Which performance poet and former Sugarpuff spokesman said, "I'll tell you now and I'll tell you briefly. I don't know if I want to go to Keighley," in his poem Burnley. One for the poet there.
Can you say the start of the question again? I missed that.
He's a performance poet and former Sugarpuff spokesman. Although that was some time ago. Just think performance poet. After 3,
He's
1,
from Keighley now, isn't he?
2, 3.
John Cooper Clarke.
It was Dr. John Cooper Clarke.
Damn.
Spoilers, he did come here. He played in December 1977 at Knickers. More about that in a minute.
Did everybody in Keighley go like they went to the Sex Pistols?
Yeah, well, yeah, everybody in Keighley. 4 million people apparently saw the Sex Pistols in Keighley.
I didn't.
I knew
that they were coming, but I was I didn't believe that they'd come to Keighley, so I bloody missed it.
No.
It was such a weird-looking venue that they were basically, the stage was a balcony about 10 foot in the air. And so to watch the band, you were looking up like that.
Was the first gig Radiators from Space? I have a feeling that it was.
I'm not sure. But it looked like a weird venue anyway.
And the last one in this round. One of Keighley's premier music venues, Persevere's Titsy Pub for Odd People, is named after what sort of entertainer? Was Persevere an actor, a boxer, or the inventor of the world's first steam-powered pocket tuppence? Yeah, I would change that in case it's a family audience. And then the parents can have the difficult time of explaining it. After 3, 3, 2, 1.
Boxer.
He was a boxer. Sadly, we can't go at the moment. We can all dream of going to Persevere's at the moment.
I once saw a couple of guys arguing in Persevere's, but they were both deaf. So they were sign arguing. It was quite mesmerising.
That's fantastic. We're going another round, inspired by the mention of Knickers. This round is called Knickers is Off. Now, as we all know, one of the biggest institutions that people won't shut up about is Knickers, a short-lived night in Keighley that hosted gigs by all the biggest punk bands. Buzzcocks, The Lurkers, 911, Randy Ian, Ken Sputum, Grrr, and of course Engelbert Humperdinck. But the most famous was the Sex Pistols, who came into town on the 19th of December 1977. But did the following 5 names live long enough to potentially attend? So I'm just going to give you 5 names and you're just going to say yes or no. You don't need to write it down, we'll just do after 3. So, Groucho Marx. Was Groucho Marx, in theory, alive enough to come to Keighley and see the Sex Pistols at Knickers nightclub?
What year was it again?
They played in December 1977. 19th of December.
I'm going with no.
I'm going with no too.
Yes.
So, after 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
No.
That is.
I'm afraid he died on the 19th of August 1977, just missing out. But he did probably buy,
Can we cheer at that?
Can I just say before you go on, I've got a bootleg of the Pistols doing Knickers. It's one of the worst bootlegs I've ever heard. But I have got it. Yeah, my son got it for my birthday.
Wow.
I can hear my mate Baz saying, you'll have to bleep this. Fuck off, you wankers.
Next one is Orson Welles. Orson Welles, the director and obeseman and pea advertiser. Simply say after 3, 1, 2, 3.
No.
Orson Welles died in 1985. He's in Transformers the movie.
Is he?
Yeah, it's his last proper role. Yeah. This next one. Chester A. Arthur, the 21st President of the United States. Did he live long enough to turn up at Knickers nightclub to see the Sex Pistols? I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying he could have done or not. So it's a yes or no. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
No.
Oh.
Sadly, he did die on the 18th of November, 1886. So it was just a bit out. Unfortunately. Number 4 in this round, John Lennon. John Lennon, you might remember him from Beatle. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yes.
He didn't die until 1980, 20 days before I was born. And finally, this person, did they live long enough to attend the Sex Pistols at Nickers nightclub? Sid Vicious! And if so, did he know?
Was he ever there? Was he really ever there?
After 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
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 See, he was the only person I could confirm did attend. Whether he knows he attended or not, I don't know.
And did he really play? Did he really play?
I can't imagine Glenn Matlock came and stood behind a speaker cab.
Don't
Right,
bother him, Keighley.
I think we need to pick a winner there, and I think it was Sam Drury. Which means
Well
Sam
done,
gets to
Sam.
play the final round,
Oh.
which is something we have been playing on the live stream, which is play your movie franchises right. Now, if you've seen Play Your Cards Right, it's a higher or lower game, basically. You go number next is higher or lower. This one, I'm doing it with film franchises. So basically, it's how many films are in the franchise. And we start with these professionally made cards, what I've done, with Shrek there, saying his catchphrase, Donga. So, how many Shrek-based films are there in the franchise? There's 5. 4 Shreks and a Puss in Boots. So you have to tell me if this next one has more films in the range or less. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, help him out. Higher or lower? Higher.
Higher.
Everyone's saying higher.
Hi.
It's logical for it to be higher.
I say lower.
What's that, Sam? You say higher?
I say higher.
Yeah, well done. It's the X-Men franchise. There are 11
Yes,
films.
my favourite.
Ah, dear. So, higher or lower than 11? Listen to the audience.
Lower.
Lower. I say lower, Ben. Lower.
And it is, the official logo here, the Expendables. But there are 3 of them. There you go. There are 3 of them. So, are we going higher or lower than 3? Don't worry, there's only 37 cards to go. Higher. It's the Scream franchise. There are 4 of. So, higher or lower?
I say lower. Higher. I say higher. Higher.
Higher.
I say higher.
It's Jurassic Park and Jurassic World working as a team. Bring us 5 there. Professional artwork done by me, sadly. Next one. Higher or lower than 5? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. We all want to die.
Higher.
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 Higher. It's Kermit the Frog saying his catchphrase. I'll do. There are 8 Muppet films. Well done. So, this is a tricky one. Higher or lower than 8?
Lower.
Going lower than...
I think it's a trick. I think it's higher. It's going to be like Marvel Universe or something.
I can tell you that the James Bond franchise is in here. For starters.
Oh. But is it next? I don't think so. I say
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I say lower than what was last.
It's the Transformers films!
Woo!
Which there are 5 of, well, 6 if you count Bumblebee, but I don't because that's good. Right, wrapping up soon. Higher or lower than 5? We've got literally 3 more. Higher or lower than 5? Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Higher.
Pray for death and we'll get through it.
Higher.
Higher. Oh, sorry. It's Godzilla! And there's bloody loads of them. There's 32 of them.
32 Godzillas?
32 Godzillas.
Holy moly.
So, this last one. No, it's 2, but... Higher or lower than 32?
Lower. Lower,
It's
Ben, lower.
Die Hard! There's 5 of them!
Well done, you got right to the end.
Well, there was one
Yeah.
more, but this is the golden one. Does he bank all of it, on this final card. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? For all the nothing, you could have double nothing.
I think you're going to have to
It's
gamble,
been
Sam.
mentioned, hasn't it?
Who
I'm going to
says
say
higher?
I'm going to say higher.
Higher than
Ben,
5
higher.
films.
Higher.
Than Die Hard. Which, can we just admire that again? That is...
And the bloody feet.
Yeah, see, I'm glad you've noticed that. It's all very good detail. Done by professional me. So we're going higher or lower, the final card for all the beans for the podcast.
Higher,
Mickey's
Ben.
Piano. You'll have to mail that yourself.
High.
You'll have to work that out between you. I'm not. I'm not the boss. Higher.
Higher, Ben. Higher.
Yeah.
I wish I was, but unfortunately I'm doing this quiz. It is the James Bond franchise. You win! Ding, 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 ding. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause to Sam Drury Poem and you for putting up with some quiz there. Hopefully we'll get some proper quiz nights in again soon. But in the meantime, if you do want some quiz books, I've got a new book out called Ben Baker's Fun Book for the Apocalypse, which is puzzles and games and silly things to do. You can get that on Lulu or Amazon. Just type Ben Baker in there. Oh, Ben Baker Apocalypse. Why not? Treat
That's
yourself.
good.
Christmas
Thanks,
before you
Ben.
know it.
Sam, tell us your spam that you want to do. So, the Instagram page.
Yeah, so it's just instagram.com/Sam Drury Poem. And then also on Facebook, it's Sam Drury Poem, but with spaces in between each word.
There we go.
That's me.
Steve, do you have a website or any?
Yeah, I've got a website, manthorp.co.uk, also adeptprojects.co.uk for my artwork with Shanaz Gulzar, and my Twitter handle is on the screen there at Manthorp.
Awesome. And Michael, before you perform, do you want to tell us any links or anything that we should check out if we like the song that you're about to play?
No pressure.
Yeah, it's called Honomyn. It's a project, which you can see it's written right there. And search for that, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc., Spotify. I'm the only one with that name.
But it's good. I can't pronounce it. I've written it down. Honomyn.
I'm
Yeah.
very looking forward to
That's
this.
the one.
I've
written it
missed
down.
Michael's playing very much since he
I've,
garpered off to somewhere which is much nicer than Keighley.
the new release is fantastic. You should
Thank
definitely check it
I'm
out.
looking forward to it.
I've just noticed I've written homonym down phonetically here so I can know how to say it, even though it's already spelt phonetically. So what I've essentially done is just I've written it down.
Little lines between the O and the N.
Yeah.
The things that get us through the days.
So we're going to end on with Michael Day, Homonym, which is brilliant. We're all going to mute our streams now, so you guys can all do that yourselves. And we'll thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much to Bradford Council, because they've helped support us being able to set this podcast up. And we're looking forward to doing at least another 4, and if it goes well, we'd like to carry on doing it. So over to Homonym. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Of all of the days I'd hope to remember, none of that fell upon last year's December. Alone at park benches, on Love No Graffiti, I've never felt distant and gone so completely. It's New Year's morning, I'm 12 hours sober. I slept until 10 till the fireworks are over. Now I drift alone in this empty part of space, glitter polish on my nails, 8-day beard upon my face. My mind wanders idly, eyes drifting aimlessly, searching for someone who sits just beside me. Yet this is now home, right here is my respite. This nest full of spoil, reminiscence and fall light. So if you wander my way, or in my direction, or a stop off for minutes between your train's connection, find two straws, one for me and all my friends. Drink it down behind closed doors to make the main hours end. I slip down beneath covers, shut the door to not offend this misplaced party guest. The deadest event. I wait up for the evening to come in to apprehend your collective calls out to me. The deadest event. I couldn't see all you meant to me all the time we were friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. That was awesome. Honomyn. The sponsor for this episode of Corner House Collective podcast is Danny Hardaker Video. So Danny is a videographer, very flexible in what he can film. He does things for like weddings. I've seen him do. He did a lot for Keighley Arts and Film Festival, and basically he's really good at listening to what your idea is. Like I've worked with him, and I've been able to go, I kind of want this, but I don't really know what it should look like. And then at the end, you get this video of something that's like, yeah, that's exactly what I kind of had in my head, but wasn't able to articulate it. So he does corporate things as well as weddings, charity work, and all sorts of different things along those lines. Really easy to work with. I think it's really important that when you're dealing with a freelancer, that you're able to kind of talk with them basically. And there's nothing worse than trying to communicate with somebody that either is just not listening to your ideas or isn't really kind of interested. But Danny's always been passionate, like when I've worked with him, about the different the ideas that you've got and bringing them into fruition. So yeah, let's have a look at a little bit of a video. It's playing now. Cool. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah, Danny Hardaker Video. You can check him out at Danny Hardaker Video. Okay. And we thank him for supporting and sponsoring Corner House Collective podcast. Okay, right, we're just going to say thank you to all my guests then. Steve Manthorp, thank you very much.
Thank you
I
for
hope
having me.
to see you again soon. I owe you some gin, I think, for helping me with various things in the past. And thank you very much to Sam Drury, the spoken word.
Thank you, Michael.
carry on doing that and look forward to your next musical project as well.
Yeah,
That
thanks, man.
And thanks to Ben Baker for the quiz. It was good.
It's good. Well, can I have some gin?
Enjoyable. Can't have gin.
Got my
You can have
tiny
one bottle.
NHS rattle.
You can have one bottle of Newcastle Brown, and that's it.
As long as I can sit in park with it in a brown bag.
And thank you to the technicians who have been working with me on this, Danny Hardaker and Kurt Wood. They're both very clever at what they do, and it's made it kind of work, I think. So thanks very much for them guys as well. So this episode is sponsored by Corner House Recording Studio and Danny Hardaker Video. They're going to continue to help us with it, and we're going to also give a big thank you to Bradford Town Council because they've helped fund these first 5 episodes. We're going to see where they go from there. But thank you very much, guys. It's been good. Good first episode.
Michael.
Well done, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.